This video I'm going to show you how to model your base for the LED light in Inventor. So we're going to start with the rectangle that's shown up in the top view here. It's 3.5 long and 1.625 in thickness. So I'm going to go over to Inventor and I'll kind of back and forth to this drawing as we go through, but you should have a copy of this at your desk as you're working. So I am in Inventor and I'm going to create a new part. You can go to part here or you can click new up here. Either one's fine. If you click on new, you're going to see a bunch of different file types that can be opened. You're going to be opening up a standard.ipt, and IPT stands for Inventor part. So we're going to hit create on that. Once this loads, we're going to pick a work plane to start our first sketch on. Unlike AutoCAD, we will not be drawing everything all at once. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to click on a work plane to begin with. And I'm going to go to the rectangle tool. I'm going to start at my origin. A little bit different than a CAD when I draw here. So I'm going to type in 1.625. And then to get to the X direction, I'm going to hit the tab button. And then I can type in my 3.5 or 3.75. And I'll hit enter, and now I have my rectangle. Now if you misdrew that, and this program is a little bit different than AutoCAD, you could double click on this, and let's say I wanted it to be 4, I could double click on the dimension and I could also bring it back to 3.75 if I had mistyped something in there. So at this point I'm going to finish this sketch and we're going to extrude this. So when you finish your sketch, you'll see you go to some 3D tools. There's only one path, so it should select that, but you may have to pick inside of there. And then you want to put in your extrusion height. Your extrusion height is the height of the object, also 1.625. So we'll just type that in here, 1.625, and we'll hit OK. From here, we could do a number of things. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this groove in the top. So the groove is 0.22 in width, and we are going down for a 0.1875 depth, and that has to be in the center. So we're going to go back over to Inventor here, and I'm going to make a sketch now up on top of my part. And on top of my part, I am going to go to rectangle. I'll start with a line, and we should be able to get a green dot in the middle of our object. Okay, if you want to check that, you could place a dimension on that, and that should be, I'm going to hit accept on that. That would be half of the 1.625. And you see it rounds it. The true size would be 0.8125. It's rounding that. If you were to open this up and change your preferences, you'd see a difference there. So I'm going to start, I'm going to draw a rectangle on each side of this. So I'm just going to draw it in. I'm not worried about how big it is right now. And then from the center mark, I'm going to click on those two lines and place a dimension here. That's going to be 0.11. So that's half the thickness of the groove that runs across. And then I'll pull out this one, and I can type in 0.11, or I can click on this dimension up here and it'll set it to the same. And then I'm going to finish my sketch. That's all I need. I'm going to go to extrude now. Same tool we used last time. I'm going to click on both of these rectangles that I just made. Now notice it wants to build it and wants to put the same number and we used last time. I'm going to flip the direction, and it automatically goes into cut. Notice that build is kind of greenish looking, cut is red. If it doesn't, down here under the output, you could select build or cut. Now I don't want to cut all the way through. I want to cut down 0.1875 from the drawing. Alright, so now I have the groove in there. I've got to cut a couple holes in the bottom. So if we look back at our drawing, we have a 1.378 hole. It's because we were using a 35mm bit to drill this. I'm going to recommend you make this 1.4 because the 3D print is going to shrink slightly. So I'm going to go back to Inventor here. And there's a number of ways you could do this. You could continue working with extrude, which would be just as easy. You could go right to the hole tool. And I think we'll just go right to extrude here. I think this will be easier since it's your first time working here. So I'm going to draw a line kind of across the corners here, and that should help us locate a midpoint on there. So we got that green dot right in the middle. I'm going to draw my circle. So I'm going to do 1.4 just to make sure it's big enough. because it's going to shrink a little bit after the print. So it's centered. If you wanted to check that it's centered, you could add a dimension to the side, and you could see that. Now I have to hit accept here because it's already locked in, so you shouldn't have to do that. If you draw a diagonal, another way you can check it is, make sure you draw 2 diagonals, X marks the spot there, and then you're ready to go ahead and extrude that. I'm going to delete these 2 lines before I go any further, and I'll go to finish sketch. And when I deleted that, I just selected it and I hit the delete key on my keyboard. You could also leave that, so let's just see what it looks like if I had left my original line there. So I'll finish my sketch, go to extrude. Notice now I have multiple profiles I could pick. I have to get both sides of the circle because I left my line in there. So I am cutting again, so I'm going to flip my direction. Notice it went right to cut. And in the packet, you would be drilling this until you hit this 0.1875 dimension. So you're not given what this is, but it's the 1.625 minus 0.1875, which you could get your calculator out for, or you could type it right into the distance box here. So I'm going to do 1.625 minus 0.1875. So that's going to do the math for me, and it's going to cut that right up to that opening. So I'm flipping that around just by grabbing my view cube as I slide that around. Okay. We're going to do a couple more things here. We're going to add the roundovers to the corners. So on these you have a radius 0.375 roundover. So I'm going to go to the fillet tool, and I'm going to select radius and type in 0.375, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to click on these corners. If you accidentally get one that you don't want, like let's say I grabbed up here, if you hold the control key down, you can unselect that edge. So I'm going to hit OK on that. With the 3D print, it's nice to have a little roundover along the top edge, so I'm going to go back to fillet, and I'm going to set this back to 1/8 of an inch, or 0.125, and I'm going to grab both of these and just give you a little bit more of a finished look up on top of your part. We have to cut in 2 more things here. We have the holes to screw on the base plate, and then we have this little tiny notch to allow the USB cord to go out the back. So the next thing we'll do is probably this little notch here. So it is 1/8 of an inch off the top. The radius is 0.0625, so the diameter would be 1/8. So I'll go over to Inventor, and I'm going to create a sketch on the back side, and it doesn't matter which you select as your back side. So I'll begin probably just with a line off the midpoint. So I'm looking to get that little green dot there off the midpoint, and I'm going to go up. I'll go up 1/16 of an inch, 0.0625, and from there I'm going to draw my little 1/8 inch diameter circle, so 0.125, and then I'm just going to connect this down, and so I'm going to grab this point, take this over here, and then I'll grab this one, take this down, and then I've got to connect across here so I have a complete profile. And then I'll go to finish sketch, and I'll go to extrude, and I want to grab the hole and these 2 little corners there. I want to cut that, so I'm going to change the direction. Now that's going to cut a little bit too far. I'm only needing to cut in just through that wall, so I'll put a 1/4 inch in there. That'd be plenty. So I have that little cut in there. Last thing to do are the holes. The holes are not dimensioned for location here because it says to transfer from the base plate. So the base plate, these holes are 3 inches between centers. It says a 1/2 inch off the edge, but be careful of that because the base plate is actually larger than the base itself. It's 4 inches, so there's an 1/8 inch overhang. So it would be 3 inches on center or 3/8 from the edge when we're working on the base itself. So I'll go over to Inventor here. So there's a couple ways you can do this. We can start with a sketch, or we can go directly into the hole tool. I'm going to go ahead and just do a sketch since we're just starting out here in Inventor. And I'm going to grab the midpoint here, and I'm going to draw over 0.375, and that should be the center for my hole. And I'm going to do another one over here. So I'm grabbing that little green dot that's right in the middle, drag it over 0.375, And I'm going to check that with a dimension. I want to make sure that I have 3 inches in between these centers, which I do. It's going to ask me to accept this because I've already dimensioned those points. I can't put another one in there. Inventor doesn't work that way, but I'm going to hit accept just so you can see that that is 3. And then I'm going to go to point, and this adds a whole point, and the whole tool is going to use this to select those centers. And then I will finish my sketch. Now I'm going to go to the whole tool. Notice how it automatically selected those centers. If you've got a bunch of extra ones on here, again, you can hold Control and you can unselect one of those center points. The hole size for you, we're going to a distance. We have a 7/64 hole, so that's a clearance hole for the screw, so you can type in that fraction. The screws are 3/4 of an inch long, so you can put in 0.75 for the hole depth. And then the tip angle of the drill bit is typically 118, but to reduce buildup material, you're going to put a 60 degree, so a very pointy end on that, but that's going to allow us, well, I have 1.75 in there, just 0.75. That's going to allow us to not have any buildup material, so you notice that like it's very pointy, it won't put anything in there, so we'll hit OK on that. Alright, that is finished as far as a model. The next thing you have to do is save this. So first thing I'm going to do, you should be saving to OneDrive. I'm just going to drop this on my desktop for today. So this is going to be, I'm going to call it Settle Base. You should put your name first so that shows up on the 3D printer while we're printing. And I'm going to hit save on that. So that saves the Inventor part. We now have to get this ready for the 3D printing. So I'm going to go to File. There's a Save As Flyout, and then I'm going to select Save Copy As. Now this is still going on my desktop. It's still going to be called Settle Base, but for the 3D printer we need an STL file. So I'm going to select STL as my file type. And then under Options, yours is going to say centimeter and probably B-rep, which is a really poor quality resolution. You're going to set this to millimeters, and you're going to set this to high resolution, and then you're going to hit OK. And then you're going to just hit Save. If I look back on my desktop here, I have the Inventor part, and then I have Settle Base, which is just an STL. And the next video I'll go over how to get that into Flash Print and how to get that ready to print.